you joined a year and a half ago, and at that point you had done like 9 deals, and now you've done over 100. What did you learn that made you accelerate so fast?
You stop doing everything yourself, right? That's like the biggest one. You know, the first educated was like 25 grand. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so much money.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh yeah, like, you know, that was great. That was like some of the best money I ever spent. So I actually...
What's up, Wealth Builders? Today, I've got a 21-year-old wonder kid. This dude has done over 100 real estate flips and wholesales in just a very short period of time. I've gotten to watch him grow over the last couple of years at a tremendous rate, and I want to know exactly how he's doing it. I got Donovan Camarotti. What's up?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. So, I mean, I'll let you kind of tell your story. I mean, you're young, but you've already had so much success. Like, tell people where you're at right now.
Yeah, so I mean, right now, like you said, I'm 21. I started like flipping when I was 18, basically right out of high school. Right now, I got a great team, 10 people, including myself, so like 9 others. And we're flipping about 80, 90 houses a year. That's about what we're on track for. Like my first year flipped like 9, second year did like 22, and then third year this year just really scaled it out. So I started like October of 2021. Now we're October 2024.
So at 18 years old, you knew you wanted to flip houses. Like, what made you want to do that?
So I didn't know I wanted to flip houses. I knew I liked real estate. I really thought like the concept of real estate was really cool. So I was like looking into it, and like my senior year of high school, I was just like, watching YouTube, watching, anything I could about real estate. And then everyone said, buy rentals, cash flow, passive income. So I bought a condo, and I was going to make a few $100 a month. And then I realized, well, that was pretty dumb. Now I don't have any more money.
You heard me hating?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, like, okay, cool. Well, now I'm out of money. So I decided to just flip it, right? Made like 27 grand on the first flip, which was fine. And then I used that money to buy another flip a week later. And then 2 weeks after that, bought another one.
Yeah.
And then just kind of like kept flipping from there.
So you're an accidental flipper. You realized rentals, at least early on, aren't the path.
Yeah, they suck.
Yeah, which is what I say every episode, I feel like now. But you have some success. Like, you're doing it on your own. Like, you just learned it from YouTube, really?
Honestly, YouTube University, man. Like, that was, I mean, I haven't watched your videos, how to flip a house. I watched Jerry Norton, like, how to talk to a seller, how to comp. Like, all that was on YouTube, man, free,
Yeah.
And it was only, within maybe the last year and a half that I really started to get into like, paid coaching and education, which, just really skyrocketed, the business.
So you joined All-Star with us a year and a half ago.
Right about, yeah.
And what your first event like was WealthCon, and
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, what made you decide, I guess, at WealthCon to like kind of take that next step? Like, because by the way, a lot of people when they're young or anyone having success immediately on their own, most people aren't really wise enough to they're like, oh, I'll figure it out myself, because you already did. So like, what made you say, hey, I need to invest in myself?
Well, because I thought about it, right? And like, this is one thing my dad always told me. He was like, hey, I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I made. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, obviously that makes sense, right? So now I try to just apply that to business and everything, right? So I was like, hey, can I learn from someone who is doing what I want to do, and see what they did that worked, see what they did that didn't, and just try to emulate that. And it, that just fast tracks you, right? So that's kind of why I wanted to do that. And I just like poured everything back into the business. I barely took any paychecks the first like year and a half.
Just into the next deal, the next marketing, education, all that.
I remember like, the first educated was like 25 grand. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so much money.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh yeah, like, that was great. That was like some of the best money I ever spent.
Yeah. So you joined a year and a half ago, and at that point you had done like 9 deals, and now you've done over 100. And what do you think like was the biggest thing, I guess, that got you, like, what did you learn that made you accelerate so fast? Because a lot of people are hearing that like, you 10x'd.
Yeah.
How?
Well, I mean, you stop doing everything yourself, right? That's like the biggest one. Like I heard, you want to hire project management. I was like, oh man, like, that sounds good, but am I going to be able to keep him busy? Am I going to know how to train him right? So I just started like writing everything down that I did, like just literally step by step to where like a 5-year-old could understand it. Then I hired project management, and I was doing like, 1 or 2 deals a month. Instantly went to like 4 or 5 deals a month after hiring project management. So they basically they kept themselves busy, indirectly, right?
Yeah.
So that solved that problem. Then, later on, I got acquisition because I hired project management so I could do acquisition. And then when I got so bogged down with, coordinating everything, I was like, hey, I need someone for acquisition. Then I got, I was just kind of overseeing that stuff, brought another, acquisition person on. Then I was like, all day I was doing admin tasks, right? So I got an assistant. Yeah. Now my assistant's doing all that. And then that has been in and of itself, like, it made us so much more productive. I would have all these ideas and I would write them down, but I'd never execute on them because I didn't have time. Right. Now she can handle all the, admin stuff. And even I'll give her these ideas and she'll execute on them. It's great. So it really frees me up a lot to, just kind of work on the business, right? Like, how are we going to improve? What are we going to change in marketing, strategies, whatever.
So, obviously you just really kind of start hiring. That's the big takeaway.
That's a big one. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of people never take that risk. They hear it. They're like, oh yeah, I should delegate. But I don't know. People are afraid to make the investment into hiring really the investment in anything, whether it's, like you said, education or employees or just spending money on actual marketing and not just relying only on, referrals. Right.
Yeah. The thing is, like, a good employee is not going to cost you anything. They're actually going to make you money. Right. Yeah. So that was the thing. And like, I started out just paying the project managers, hey, this is per project, right? Like, you do this project, you make a few grand. Right. And then it's very low risk for me. Cause I could just pay them when I know they completed something. Right. And then now I've kind of switched a little bit. I still do that for certain positions, obviously like acquisition, disposition is like that. But other roles I pay, salary, right? And some people have a different opinion on that. It's like, hey, it's feast or famine, right?
Yeah.
My approach is slightly different. There are obviously some roles that I said are like that no matter what. But there are other roles who I just say, hey, it's better just have you on a salary. You're going to make the same no matter if, we have a tough month or if we have a really good month, then, that's just my risk. And people, I'll talk to people about this and I'll say, they'll say, hey, I don't have that appetite for that, monthly overhead. But I try to have my employee salaries just in the bank for the year. Right.
Yeah.
And that calmed me down a lot. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people, it's just because they're not really managing things right. They feel like they can't afford anything. And it's like, it's kind of a vicious cycle because at some point you have to invest out of your comfort zone because you're not going to save your way to your next comfort zone.
Never.
So it's like, dude, okay, you want to spend money on marketing? You got to drop the $5,000, the $10,000 this month and do it. Don't just be like, oh, in 3 months, once one deal closes, then I'm going to do it. It's like, well, dude, you're going to get that money and you're already going to invest it in your next deal. Like, I've seen this story play out over and over again with real estate investors.
Yeah. And you have to go all in too. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to put $1,500 into marketing. Like, that's not really going to probably get you that much. Like, you have to really go in and just full force, do it with intention.
Yeah. So, now with where you're at today, obviously you got a lot of deals happening. You're still majority flips,
but we are pivoting, to the wholesale novation route for so many reasons.
Yeah. What are the reasons? Why?
Well, I know you talk about it a lot. With a flip, you have a lot of debt, high interest loans, short term. You also have just a lot of risk, right? You can go over budget. You can sell the house for less on the back end.
Yeah.
And it's just risky, right? Like, is there a good upside? Yes, absolutely. But there's a lot of risk, a lot of exposure, big monthly overhead and interest payments.
Yeah. What are your interest payments right now?
Like $160,000 a month in interest payments. So every month I'm like, okay, I got to have 160 just ready to go out, So
and that's just interest. That's just not interest. Even employees and marketing and
right. Yeah. So employee salaries are, about 22, 23 grand a month. All of our renovation costs are $500,000-$600,000 a month. And obviously that gets reimbursed, in the form of draws from our lender, which is fine. But it's north of $1 million going out every single month,
Yeah.
So you got to really manage your cash flow. Because even 10% off is $100,000 plus.
You're toast.
Yeah, exactly.
How has that been? Like, as 21-year-old managing that much cash flow coming in and out?
It's been fine.
It's fine. I don't know.
It's fine. I don't know anything different.
Yeah.
Right. So that I've just gotten used to it. I never had like a 9 to 5 job, you know, where I just got a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Actually, I shouldn't say that. I did for like a month, and I got like 2 paychecks added up to like $600, maybe, like a restaurant. Like part time, it sucked. But I never really was used to like consistent, you know, money coming in. So that's like all I've known, you know. So it's fine, you know.
Yeah. So with that, you know, it's like you're managing this big operation at this point. I remember at our last mastermind, or maybe it was 2 masterminds ago, I can't remember, but we were talking in the breakout group about project management. Because you have like 3 project managers now, and we were just talking about non-performance.
Right.
Like I think that's an interesting story and a lesson for people.
Yeah, definitely. When I was up to 4 at one point, which was not necessary, right?
Yeah.
So kind of just did an evaluation. One of the guys, which is, you know, still a great friend of mine, you know, we had him take a personality test, predictive index test, and you know he just wasn't the right personality type for that job. So like, you know, just wasn't the best performer. So moved him into a different role, and he's just kind of like part time now, with finding new talent and everything. Then you know scaled back to like 2.5. You know, so one guy was kind of just like, you know, bouncing around, doing certain things. But yeah, I mean, it's like that non-performance, it costs you so much. You have to cut it right away. You know, and that's what you told me. You're like, hey man, you know, you can give him a performance improvement plan and it might work, but you might end up just getting rid of him in general.
Yeah.
But you know, I changed his pay structure, which helped a lot. You gave him a performance improvement plan. So far it's been working. But you know, I've honestly, I let it go on too long because, you know, I tell the guys, I was like, hey, every house, like on average is $3 to $4 grand every month that we have to own it. So if our renovation goes over by $4 grand, by 1 month, it's $4 grand.
Yep.
If it goes over by 2 months, it's $8 grand.
Yeah.
You know, and especially in a market that's coming down a little bit, you know, then you have a little bit of depreciation. So then you're really losing money on it.
Yeah. Because if it's going down not only by holding costs, but by price value, oh boy.
Yeah.
That's a scary, I mean, that's what happened to me in 22 when rates doubled. It was like, not only did things sit longer, but prices were dropping while they were sitting, and it's this vicious cycle.
Right. And I mean, I've even, you know, I even built in a little bit of depreciation into my flips right now, just because.
Because you think your market's dropping a little bit?
You know, sometimes some neighborhoods more than others. But
what market are you in, so people know?
I'm in South Florida, South Central Florida, so Treasure Coast, right in between Miami and Orlando. But there are certain parts of town that are just not selling. You know, they have a 7% variance, a 10% variance. So, you know, we're just building that into our acquisition cost, and that's just a line item expense.
Yeah.
So we're a little bit insulated there, you know?
Yeah. It's like, yo, ARV's 400. We think it's really 370.
Just to be safe. And we'll still
if
try
it gets
for 400,
great.
Great. Exactly. Yeah.
Got it. So, I mean, you're in Florida, which is a pretty competitive market, you know?
It is. I will say, though, a lot of competition dropped off the last year or so, like big time. Like I used to see 20 people at houses. Now I see like 3. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is good because you can get better deals and you can get more deals. But at the same time, it's like you also have fewer buyers on the back end. So you got to be.
I've seen that too, just overall. I mean, I see it just in the real estate industry as a whole. A lot of people are dropping out. And on one hand, it's great, but it's also like a reflection of what, like, you know, so for example, for me, I had to go through a storm to get to still be around and to come up with a whole new model that's better. But there are other people who obviously weren't so lucky. They got hit and they're done.
Right. Right.
And I think that's like the people you're referring to.
Yeah. And well, one thing too that, you know, can save you is just having a lot of reserves, you know, and leaving money in your business, not just taking everything out. Like I was guilty of that at the beginning. Like I would make, you know, 30 grand and I'd take 30 grand out of my business account, put it in my personal. Now it's like, hey, you know, I haven't even taken a paycheck the last, you know, since July. And I'm not planning to for the rest of the year just because I want to keep it in the business, build up the reserves, reinvest in the marketing, reinvest in the staff.
Yeah.
And everything like that. So, you know, like, hey, I paid myself for the first 6 months of the year. That's going to carry me through to the end of the year. And I just want to build up my reserves because I know I'm going to need them.
Yeah. I mean, you can't have that many bills right now. You're young.
Not that crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have a McLaren.
I do. Yeah.
So that's your only bill.
Nah, I mean, I got more bills. But yeah, but you know, it's really, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that expensive. Like
what does the McLaren cost?
I mean, I bought it for a little less than 200. It's an entry level. It's just 570. It was a little less than 200 grand. I put half down, and it cost me $2,400 a month.
Got
I
it.
don't even see that go out, you know. And you get to drive a supercar, right?
Yeah.
And it was really a marketing expense if you think about it, because people will associate a supercar with some type of level of success, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've gotten lenders from, you know, Instagram, just from, you know, seeing me post about it. We get talking about cars and they're like, hey, I got an investment fund.
Were you
know?
always a car guy?
I always liked cars. Yeah.
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 So that was like a big goal for you.
Yeah. And I always wanted an orange McLaren. So I bought it.
That was your thing.
Yeah. That was like, it's been on my screensaver on my phone for like 2 years. No, maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
And then so I bought it. It was purple. I wrapped it orange right away.
Yeah.
Just because like that was my
Your
goal. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I have I got a lot of buddies who obviously like cars,
Mm-hmm.
and I've never been a car guy. I drive a Tesla, so any car guy who looks at Teslas like scoffs at them. But yeah, I mean, like do you do like the car events and shows
Yeah.
and stuff?
Well,
like that's where you meet people.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like the other big thing, right? It's because I can go and get in the groups with other guys who have these cars and have more expensive cars and have multiple of them, right? Like I joined a group. It was like $5,000 a year for the entry. But I mean, I met this guy there who was in the real estate space, exited big time. And, you know, I just get to talk with him, right? And he gives me advice. There was another guy there who was in the insurance space, which I didn't think would really be of any value to me. But he is big into private lending, right?
Yeah.
So that became a lender.
Yep.
So, you know, I mean, the car's
car's
more than
paid
paid
for
for itself. Yeah, in the first few months.
Yeah. I said that before about, so like, it's interesting. The only thing nice that I really value is like the home I live in.
Okay.
I don't really care about the cars. I mean, I've sold a bunch of my watches,
Mm-hmm.
like, but they definitely got views, and they definitely.
I remember
made
the
more.
watch view, the video.
Dude, I had that watch video got like 50 million views or something in the
Really?
grand scheme of like all the platforms and stuff. It was
Wow.
crazy. I'm like, that had to have made me more than the $10,000 watch.
Yeah, right.
50
Right.
million views.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I think the nice things definitely can help. But, you know, I think it's also important to do that after you're established. Because, you know, you built success and you're able to afford it, and it's not going to stop your business or hinder it. A lot of people buy stuff the moment they have success.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember like, you know, the first time I made like a bigger purchase, like, you know, I bought a truck at like the end of 2022 just because I wanted the write off, because I knew the write off was kind of just getting phased out.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a little bit of a stretch at the time, but, you know, I made it work. Looking back, I probably wouldn't have done that, right? But now it's like, you know, hey, like I only spend maybe less than 10% of my income. So I try to put stuff in reserves, right? And I think that's something that more people should do, is just, you know, plan for the worst.
Yeah, budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm even, for myself, I was always a frugal guy. And, you know, I started to make a lot of money, and I started to like get way more lackadaisical with my spending. And also too, like with my company, just like being okay, like, we're growing, whatever. And then like I was just talking about the mastermind. So right now we're at the All-Star Mastermind. So like I was telling all of our All-Star students that like, hey, I'm like getting back to my roots with all of this, like how we throw events with staff and everything being super lean, and everybody we know has like a role that's generating a lot more than, you know, what they're being paid, and you know, not worrying about all these different business opportunities and just staying hyper focused on the one thing. And, you know, that's what's allowed us to like really weather the storm and also now innovate in whole new ways.
Yeah. Well, and you know, that's the thing too, is like, you know, when you're in good times and you just have a ton of money coming in, you know, you're not really looking at all the expenses and you're not really penny pinching. It's like, you know, then when you get some tough times, it's like, okay, hey, I'm going to cut here, I'm going to cut there, and just kind of, you know, remove all the fat. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, what's interesting is you were able to build this business through tough times. Because I mean, you just got started a couple years ago.
Yeah. Well, and you know, the thing is with Florida, we were a little bit behind you guys here in Vegas.
Okay.
We were like 6 to 9 months. It took, like, when you guys got hit real hard out here, it took like 6 to 9 months for us to get hit hard.
Yeah.
So like maybe end of 2022, 2023 was hard for you guys.
Yeah.
Like end of 23 was more difficult for us.
Really?
Yeah. For sure.
So let's just talk about that, right? I mean, you're in Florida. You got like the hurricanes and all this stuff going on. How is that affecting it?
Well, we just had that one come through like last week, and I mean it hit the other side of the state, so like we were okay where I was. But I mean it's tough because insurance is insanely expensive.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing about Florida.
Yeah, and it's a problem. Like every single house, basically, we do new roofs on because it's very hard to get insurance with a roof that's like close to 15 years old or
Really?
older. Yeah, it's like they won't even write it most of the time. So we always have to do roofs. Like I was talking to some guys out here, like, dude, we never do roofs.
No.
Yeah.
The only time we need a roof if like it's shot.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, we'll replace perfectly good roofs if they're just too old.
Wow.
Like there's nothing wrong with the roof. No leaks. Hasn't been any leaks for 20, 25 years. We'll replace it because we have to for insurance reasons.
That sucks.
Yeah, it kind of does. But, I mean, you work it into your costs. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
And there are a lot of roofers out there because of that.
They're making a killing.
They are making a killing. But you can also get the prices down because it's very competitive. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of supply of roofers.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it sounds like though you guys are in lots of different markets, and like you said, all the way from Tampa to Orlando.
So we're based out of Port St. Lucie, which is right in between Miami and Orlando. It's about like an hour and 45 minutes north of Miami, hour and 45 minutes south of Orlando.
Okay.
And we go about an hour or so in each direction up the coast. Florida's very coastal, right? So you don't really have anything inland. So we'll just run up and down the coast about an hour in each direction from where we're based out of.
Got it. So you got crews that's not a problem. Your project managers are okay driving a lot.
Yeah.
Do you just give them territories?
Sometimes, depending on where the work is. If the work is very spread out, I'll have one guy down south, one guy up north. If everything's up north, then hey,
everyone's up north.
Yeah, exactly. But I was talking to someone last night saying, dude, we had a house 45 minutes out of town here, and we couldn't get anyone there for 6 months. I was like, whereas that's like very common for us. So
Yeah.
It's a little different market to market.
Yeah, they might have here in Vegas. That might be Pahrump where they had one. We've done a lot of deals out there. But yeah, I mean, it's a headache because Vegas is everything's within 30 minutes.
Right.
So, to go to Pahrump is like an hour away. And like, we'll still do deals out there. It's great. But yeah, you got to usually pay more for the contract because they live in Vegas.
Right.
It's an hour drive every day to.
Yeah. Like, I mean, my contractor, he will go basically within a 3-hour radius. That's just his, where he works in, just because that's very normal. Like people will work on the other side of the state. It's just, I'm not sure why, but I guess it pencils out for them.
Yeah. So what's I mean, you're doing a ton of flips, and I know you want to grow. So what's the next plan?
Well, the next plan, I mean, is really to get into, more wholesale, more novation. Like I said, we're on track to do like 80, 90 flips. We'll probably stay around that level, maybe even dial it back slightly, depending on how things go. But the plan is to do, 200 to 300 wholesale novation deals because, number one, it's like you don't need contractors to do that for the most part. You don't need as much money to do that. It's way less capital intensive. So that seems a lot easier to scale, in my opinion. And I think you've seen that too, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're locking up about 30 a month right now.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. And also with that, less capital, less contractors, and then the time to get paid.
Yeah. The cash conversion cycle is so much faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're getting paid what in 1 or 2 months versus 5-6 months, and you're making almost the same amount.
Yeah,
sometimes
and no risk.
Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but yeah, no risk. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
and you're already talking to the same leads, more or less, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a crazy transition.
Yeah. Well, I think too with even the leads, it's interesting because if you look at the different exit strategies, if you have wholesale, flip, and novation, it's like wholesale, you got to get it at a certain price. Like that's the hardest one to get. A true wholesale, you're going to have to get that for the cheapest. Then you have flips, which you can pay more than a wholesale, right? Let's say that's 10 grand more, 20 grand more you can pay. But with innovation, you can pay even more than you would pay for a flip.
Right. Way more.
Way more. And you get paid quicker with less risk and no headaches. It's like just crazy that exists because it should be that as you pay more, you got to do more in order to make money, but that's not the case. It actually like switches.
Yeah. Well, because like I know our conversion rate for flips, I used to make just, crazy offers. I'd make, 20, 30 a week to get like, you know, maybe 1 or 2 a month when I was really heavy in flipping. Now, like the acquisition guys, they're making, you know, for a novation, it's like 1 in maybe 7 to 10 that they're converting. You know, it's such an easier sell.
Yeah. When you have a better product, you know, we say this in the business world, right? The offer is everything. The product is everything.
Yeah.
And so what real estate investors don't really understand is like, the beauty of being a flipper and a wholesaler is you don't have to actually create a new business. All of our products are the same.
Right.
We just give the cash offer. That's the product. And, you know, everyone's marketing is the same. You just buy leads. You know, cold call the same list. Like everybody's doing the same exact thing. And there's good and bad to that. The good is like anyone can do it. The bad is everybody just kind of like doesn't innovate. They don't think about things differently and all this stuff. And so it's like kind of what I was just telling all the students out there. It's like, dude, in 2025, I think all of us can just go destroy.
Well, everyone's going to get left behind if they're not changing, and we're the ones that are, you know, having a way better product to sell.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the people that are not doing that are going to get left behind so fast.
Yeah. If my product is better and I'm giving them more and I'm still able to make the profit I want to make.
It's so easy to sell someone when you're giving them a lot more money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't even need to be as good at sales. You can now spend more on marketing. You can spend more to get the same lead because you're going to convert instead of 1 of 30, 1 of 10.
Yeah. When you could probably pay the sales guys a little less too because they're doing a lot less work.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not like they have to go and spend hours, you know, talking to sellers on appointments, following up, just, you know, making them understand why they should take a super low offer, whereas you just give them what they want.
Yeah.
You know, or close to it if you can.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy because I've never seen it this easy with this process that we're talking about. And that's what I was just saying out there too. I've been doing this a long time.
Do you foresee it, if a lot more people get into doing this model, do you foresee it getting more difficult? I mean,
yeah,
I think that's natural, right?
Yeah, everything. And that's kind of like at the beginning of today. So I'll repeat it for the podcast since you guys weren't in the mastermind. But I was like, look, every business has to innovate as time goes on, right? And so if I was to go look at the biggest businesses in the world and where they started to where they are now, you could just check the last 10 years and it's been crazy. It's like Facebook was Facebook and 10 years ago. And then throughout the way, they acquired Instagram, they acquired WhatsApp, they got into the metaverse, they got Oculus. They're doing all these different things now. Facebook itself is like not even, it's part of their core business, but definitely like Instagram's bigger.
Absolutely.
And well, not bigger from a user standpoint, but I would guess it's like more valuable and everything else. And, you know, even speaking on Instagram 10 years ago started as, well, maybe not 10, but 15, started as a whiskey app. People would post pictures of whiskey. That was all Instagram was. And then they're like, well, that market's kind of small, but people like posting pictures. Nobody's like, Facebook doesn't really post high quality pictures. It's just people just like typing their status and whatever. So then they do this high quality picture app and people are like, this is great. And then Instagram gets, you know, starting to get beat by TikTok. So what do? They're like, we need reels. We need to go video because that's where the world wants. The world wants video.
And now like no one posts pictures anymore. It's like everyone posts reels. Like I don't post pictures
exactly.
ever, basically.
But, you know, 7-8 years ago, that was the thing. And so the biggest, and then I use the example of Google. Like Google was a monopoly for all these years. And then all of a sudden ChatGPT comes along 2 years ago and their whole business is turned upside down.
Right. And do you remember Vine when Vine was a big thing?
Yeah.
So, well, Vine obviously shut down.
Yep.
But it's because they didn't want to change and they didn't want to pay their influencers. So their influencers went to YouTube. They went to Instagram where they were going to get paid and they just never made that change. And now they're out of business.
And then TikTok was just Vine.
Yeah, right.
Vine's original idea was correct. Short, punchy videos.
Right.
And TikTok's like, oh, we actually can do that.
Yeah.
Like people want that.
Right.
And oh yeah, I forgot I used that example too with YouTube. It's like you know Netflix took out Blockbuster, but now Netflix's biggest threat is YouTube, and they have a huge problem with YouTube because Netflix has to pay billions a year just to create content that takes a lot of time to create, and they release it a year later after production. YouTube has unlimited content that's being posted every day, and it costs YouTube $0.
Yeah, everyone else is posting it. And I mean, that's the same point as the what we're talking about in real estate, right? It's you're speeding up the cash conversion cycle. You're taking way less risk.
Yep.
I mean, it's the same concept, right? Just a different business.
Yeah. And that's kind of like my point with all that is those are the biggest companies in the world. And in their last 10 years, they had to pivot and change and drastically be different. But when I look at the real estate space, it's just like, it's been the same thing. Like, hey, this is just the way it is with flipping, and this is the way it is with wholesaling. And I'm like, no, that's not the way it is. This doesn't have to be the way it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, as like I was sharing with you guys, it's like, dude, this cash flow 2.0 model that I'm coining it as is like, it's just so much easier and less risky, more scale. Everything about it's better.
Yeah. Can we talk about that too with like, you know, people that are buying rentals for cash flow, right? Like, why not invest that money into your own business that is going to make you way more cash flow?
Yep.
And just figure out how to delegate your business to where you are not involved so much or at all, right? And then that's just recurring income for you.
And that's like the thing.
That's so much better than doing a rental, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you're living proof of that. I'm living proof of that. You know, all of our students are living proof of that. It's like, anyone listening, okay, if you wanted to go buy a rental today, you save up your 20%. You do it the traditional way. It's like, all right, you know, you saved up 50 grand, 60 grand to go buy this rental. And it makes you $200 a month if you're lucky.
Yeah. And then you just tied up 50, 60 grand.
Yeah. And guess what? You're going to go save 50, 60 grand again, however long it took you to save. So now, because that asset ain't helping you pay for the next one. It's like whatever you did before, your job is going to help you get to the next one 5 years later.
Right.
And it's like, dude, put the 50K into your business, into your education, into some marketing dollars, and you will make it back way faster.
100%. Tenfold too. I mean, if you put in 50K into education, I mean, that should really make you millions, if not more.
If you use it right, you got to apply it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't just...
Yeah. But like, even then, it's like, you know, like, let's just say education is only 20% of that budget. It's like, okay, you spend the rest on your marketing, on your softwares, on, you know, you don't even need a big team with this model either.
Right.
We're talking to like, you could do it for yourself starting out, but with 2 people, 3 people, you could have a 7-figure organization with this model.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's in the restaurant business, and, you know, for them to make maybe $3 million a year, they have like 120 employees, right? And they're low-level employees. For us to make $3 million a year, like, we maybe need 6 to 10 employees maximum to make $3 million a year. And they're higher level employees, so they're way easier to deal with. They're not some high school kid that's showing up late bartender, or calling out. Right, exactly.
Yeah, all this stuff. Bar back, I should say.
Yeah, right.
But well, and also too, to open up a restaurant, you need chefs. You need to come up with like menus and recipe.
That's build out a whole restaurant,
bro. Ambiance, brand, pick a location, sign a 10-year lease.
Yeah,
dude, there's so much creativity that it takes to build that restaurant. There's no creativity in our, like, it just follow the steps.
It's a proven process. It's just, I mean, if you get good at it, you're
gonna make
basically
money.
Doing the same thing. Yeah, and you're gonna make money.
Yeah. That's the whole point of cash flow 2.0. It's like, I want real estate investors to think about cash flow differently. I don't want them to think the whole method they've been brought up on with Rich Dad, Poor Dad and all the stuff of buy rentals and get passive income. It's just not true. It's not true anymore. Like, I'll say it to the rooftops. Like, if you're starting out today in 2024, going into 2025, you cannot just buy rentals from the get-go and not have a lot of money and like just build your way up to passive income.
Yeah. Well, now maybe, you know, in 2010 when you were buying rentals for 40, 50 grand, sure.
When those books were written?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Not now when rentals are 400 grand.
And I brought that up too. I did a webinar. By the way, anyone can come to our, if this sounds interesting to you, go to cashflow20.com. The letter 2, the word, or the, not the word, the number 2, the letter O, cashflow20.com. But basically I explained, I was like, look, I got into this business in 2010, and yes, it was like super good advice. Vegas, the average home was $100,000. It's $500,000 a day.
Right.
That home was renting for $1,000. It cash flowed. You knew it was going to appreciate. It's great. The same house today, $500K, does not cash flow. Right. You'll lose probably $500 to $1,000 per month just buying it, even with 20% down.
Mm-hmm.
So that don't work. But then even like other things that people have been using for cash flow, like Airbnb. I got an Airbnb in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you were still probably in middle school. You know, like
Yeah.
I was doing Airbnb way before everyone else. And dude, I was killing it.
Mm-hmm.
I was buying houses for 200 grand in Big Bear, California, and they rented for 4,000.
That's awesome.
And today, that same house is 500 grand and it still rents for like 4,000 to 5,000.
Right.
So you won't make any money after the cleaning fees and everything else.
No, not at all.
So like the idea is you're hearing it from people who did that and they're saying, yeah, look at all my portfolio. I cash flow so much. It's like, you do.
Because you bought it so much cheaper, right?
You bought it 15, 20 years ago in a different era.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you've waited 20 years and now it cash flows a lot. And to be fair, if somebody were to start buying rentals today, even at negative cash flow, at some point, they're going to cash flow. But could you make it to that point?
Yeah. I mean, and you got so many better opportunities too. Like I have one guy who's a big private lender of mine, and he had like 160 single family houses in this one city. And he's been just liquidating them because he bought them all for 30, 40, 50, 60 grand. Now they're all worth 2 and 3 and 400,000. So he's just liquidating it, putting his money into my deals, making,
because he's making more.
Yeah, he's making 12 to 15% on that money, and that's so much better for him than, you know, having some distressed derelict property.
And that's another good point. And I've shared this on the All-Star calls too, where okay, so let's say you are doing good. You're building a rental portfolio. I've built up a lot of rentals over the years. I still have to look at my return on equity in those rentals, and so it's like, take those Big Bear deals. I've sold a bunch of them and I'm selling all of them because I'm now looking at it from the framework of, would I buy that same deal today? The answer is no.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's what it's worth. That's essentially what's happening by me choosing to keep it. So I look at it and I'm like, all right, well, I bought this for 200. If I sell it, I'm going to get 300. You know, there's fees and whatever, but you know, I'm going to make 250 and I'm going to get long-term capital gains. So my tax bill is not going to be that bad. Or I could 1031. But long story short, right? Let's just say what I'm really looking at is, okay, today, maybe I make $12,000 a year on this property, but that's on the $300,000 that I could potentially have and use elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you could put that into, you know, just you could lend that money privately and make 12% easy on it. I mean,
I'll make $36,000,
yeah,
$50,000 versus 12.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
you know.
And so that's the thing people don't realize too. And that's why, like, as I got to study the biggest hedge funds and people in the world, like I have friends who they have $1 billion funds. And there's a reason that they always have to trade in and out. Like their funds, and our fund is no different. You know, it's set up as a 5-year to 10-year fund. And so within 5 to 10 years, they have to liquidate and get people's money back with whatever that return is. But a lot of them sell way before that. Because at the end of the day, their goal is to maximize IRR. And IRR is the internal rate of return. And just by definition, the quicker you liquidate, the higher your IRR is.
Right.
So for anyone who doesn't understand what I'm saying, essentially, like, let's say, this is why flipping is so valuable. So let's just take a normal house, right? You get this house for 300 grand. You could flip it, and let's just say you could make 100 grand in 6 months for easy numbers. Okay. So, you know, you buy a deal. Let's say you just put 100 grand down for easy numbers. You make 100 grand in 6 months. Well, technically, you know, you made 100% on your money. You doubled, but you did it in half of a year. So really your IRR is 2 times that because you would do it twice. So now you basically made 200% on your money by flipping that house. Like, I don't know of many things paying 200%.
No.
Right? But that's literally what happened. And these big guys do the same thing. You know, they'll do a development. They'll buy a big apartment building and then, you know, they'll flip it in 3 years because all of a sudden they're going to go get a 30% IRR. But if they hold it,
the IRR is going just getting
it's just
so
going to keep
compressed.
getting lower because you're waiting longer and the value's already been reached. You've already stabilized it. It's at its max value. And yeah, waiting a couple of years isn't going to change that.
Yeah. What about development? Because didn't you have like a mountain or something that you were gonna?
I still own it.
Do you still own it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the plan with that? Because you were gonna build
Yeah.
like a crazy house on it or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't really much of an investment. That was just for me. But yeah, I'm actually working with a developer around it now.
Okay.
And we're trying to subdivide the lots, and then they're going to sell off the lots.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, long story short, it's like, if I really wanted to have maximized that deal, I should have started developing it right away. I should have subdivided it right away, got it ready, started building or selling the lots as is, and just make the quickest buck I could.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's a local developer that I know where I live, and you know, I thought he was a developer that meant, you know, buying the land and you know, building the whatever the structure is.
Yeah.
He is a developer where he'll buy the land, subdivide it, run all the utilities, and sell it to a builder.
Yep.
And the cash conversion cycle is so much faster.
Way faster.
Yeah.
So we have another guy in Lee Kitchen. His name's Mason. He's going to be on the show next week, actually. So he's a land guy who does just that.
Okay.
So he looks at literally what is the highest IRR on land, because land is unique in what it can do. And it's like, dude, do we sell it as is? Do we, you know, just subdivide it? Do we rezone it? Do we actually build on it? There's so many different cycles that could happen.
Changing the zoning is a big one.
That's a huge one.
I mean, that's like you buy 10 acres of agricultural land maybe for, I don't know, 500 grand, and you change it to mixed use commercial.
Yeah.
That's probably $2 million.
Yeah. Just getting a zone change.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes time to do that.
Sure.
But the point is, like, for him, he'll just look at all the scenarios. He's like, oh, okay, I could flip it in 3 months as is and, you know, double my money. Okay, I could rezone it. That's going to take a year, and it's worth 4 times more now. I could build this massive hotel on it, and then it's worth X. And you just look at the scenarios and the risk and what you want to do. And it's like, all right, you know what? Based on ease, let's just flip it as is. Or based on, you know what, this county, I think we can get it approved in 6 months because we got a relationship with this guy and that. Let's change the zoning.
Yeah. And what the other thing is too is like, okay, yes, obviously with a faster cash conversion cycle, and I feel like we keep coming back to this, is yes, your profit is coming back faster, but that also means you can invest more into the company, invest more into marketing, and get you more cash, and it's compounding way faster than it is, you know, with a longer
and
cash
that was
conversion cycle.
That was my whole thing when I first started. And you know, it's interesting because, dude, you're only 21. I mean, I started flipping when I was 25, and you know, you're in an environment where we're thinking that way, and you're like, oh yeah, this makes perfect sense, dude. When I started thinking that way over a decade ago, nobody thought that way. Like, because Bigger Pockets was the only thing, and everybody was like, passive income, you know, buy rentals, and you know, 2% rule. The 2% rule was this big thing. Like, for those who don't know what it is, it's crazy to think about today.
That's wild.
But it's like, yeah, this $500K house has to rent long-term tenant for 10 grand for it to be a good deal. That was their definition of a good deal. And I'm like, that doesn't exist. Like, even in Vegas at that time, there was the 1% rule, and they're like, no, those are bad deals.
Yeah. Now you can barely ever get 1%. Let's
You
try
get
the Midwest.
0.5%. Yeah, Vegas is 0.5% right now.
That's crazy.
And it's like, but I remember I'm sitting there looking at just like all the properties, and I'm like, but if I sell it and I make 25 grand, I can take the 25 grand and now I can buy 2.
Right.
And then I could sell those 2 and have 50 grand. And then I could take the 50 grand and buy 3 or 4. And then like, I can just keep doing that.
And that was exactly what I was thinking with my first deal, right?
Yeah.
You know, I was like, okay, awesome. Now I have this awesome property. It was by the beach, but now I have no more money.
Yep. How am I going to live? How am I going to how am I even going to create more income if I don't have money?
Right. So I took that money. I just literally put it into one new deal. I closed on it, like I said, 1 week later, put it into another one. 2 weeks later, put it into, you know, a second one or third, I should say.
Yeah.
I just kept doing it. You know, one thing too, changing the topic a little bit, but when I was like learning everything as much as I could, I learned for maybe 9 months or so before I ever like started like looking for properties.
Taking action. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even listen to music in the car for like a good year and a half.
Yeah.
Just because I would be listening to podcasts, I would be listening to YouTube videos, whatever it was, just because I wanted to take my skill and my knowledge just to the next level and get as much as information as I could before, you know, jumping in.
Yeah.
So, but I also, on the flip side of that, didn't just get analysis paralysis and stop. Like you actually have to take action on it.
Yeah. Well, even for me, when I first started 10 years ago, there was only one podcast. It was Bigger Podcast. There was no like YouTubers and other podcasts and things. And so I remember I was flipping couches at the time. And so all I did was flip couches, and I'd be driving like 3 hours a day flipping couches. And I would just listen to podcasts for 3 hours a day. And then I remember there was no AirPods yet either. So I had, my just headphones in, and I'd be scrubbing the couches. I'd be cleaning the things, taking them off. And I'm listening and absorbing all the information. And I think for me, it took about 3 months. And I was like, okay, like it's time. Like I get it. But also too, I'd been a realtor for like 5 years. So I already like had a foundation.
Yeah, you kind of understand. One thing that I heard Gary Harper talking about was like your cognitive ability and like how fast you learn stuff. Do you know like what your
my cog score's high.
Yeah, same here. So like I'll usually try to like I can hear stuff once and usually be good.
Yeah, you're like, okay, that makes sense. Like all right. But yeah, we have a lot of people out there whose cog scores are very low and they need to hear it 12 times.
Yeah. Like in school, like I never studied or anything. I would listen to the teacher talk. And I would take my test, and I'd usually do well on it. I never studied, never did anything like that. And then, like, my mom would be like, "Why aren't you studying?" I was like, "Well, I'm good. Like, I heard it.
Yeah,
that's it."
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's funny when I was a kid, we in elementary school we'd get assigned our homework on Monday for the whole week. So I'd come home on Monday. Nobody told me to do this. I was just like, I'm gonna knock out all of it. So I was like, so on Monday, dude, I'm like 7, 8 years old. Just realizing, dude, if I just knock out my homework now, I don't have to do it the rest of the week.
Yeah. I never did homework either. I would always do it in school. I would figure out a way to get it done in school. And because I hated doing it at home.
Yeah.
It was like the worst.
Well, in elementary school, it's what I did. And then when I got into middle school and high school, that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
I'd be in class. They'd give it to me the next period or whatever it was. I'm like, just getting it done, listening.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you played sports too, because like I played sports as well. So I didn't have like a whole lot of time after school.
Yeah.
Like, I played soccer. So I was like going to school practice right after school. Then I would go for like, an hour and a half. I would go eat. Yep. And then I would go to my club practice after that, which was like, for 2 hours at night. And then I would go to the gym after that. So I literally had no time when I was in high school. So I had just out of necessity, I had to do it, in school.
Yeah. 100%.
Real estate investors, I found a brand new way to create cash flow that's better than anything else I've ever done. It's better than rental properties, Airbnb, my flipping business, multifamily. It's the best thing we've done yet. It is building an automated wholesale business. Now you might be saying, Ryan, how do you build an automated wholesale business? Well, what if you had the same exact leads that I get every single month? What if you had a sales script that was so easy to close deals over the phone that you could do it all across the country? And what if you could sell your deals directly on the MLS without a real estate license and without having to actually own the property and getting top dollar? Well, we do that with this new method. And I made an 11-minute video where I go over how it all works, how you can start doing it today. So if you want to go see that video, go to wealthyinvestor.com, go click the case study and see what I'm talking about.
All right, let's transition a little bit because I know obviously like a lot of things are going really well for you, but I know that you've had losses along the way, like any investor. A lot of problems and different things to get to this point, and you'll encounter many more problems as you keep going. But like, what are some of the biggest problems, failures, lessons, that have gone on?
I'll tell you probably like the one that sticks out to me the most is the third house I ever bought. Ended up owning it for like a year, lost like 50 grand on it, once it was all said and done. That sucked, right? And
how did you absorb that loss so early? Because like I feel like if I would have had a big loss early, dude, it would have been devastating.
Well, it really wasn't that huge of a deal because it took like a year to lose that money, right? So in the meantime, like we're flipping other houses, making money. So like that was fine, and all those made money. The other thing is too is like we had a ton of equity in that house. So like we had like 300 grand into the house in equity, just from renovations going over budget and everything. So at the closing table we still got like 250 back. So
yeah, you were happy to sell it.
Exactly.
I've had many deals like that where I'm like, I'm gonna lose money on paper.
Yeah,
but I can't wait to get the cash back.
Yeah, you're gonna have the cash flow coming in, right?
Yeah,
which is what we talked about. So I mean, the reason, if I did that flip today, I probably would make good money on it. But the reason I lost is because I hired the wrong contractors, trusted them with a bigger scope that was just not, in their wheelhouse to be able to do. So ended up having to renovate that house like 3 times.
Yeah.
Just because had one contractor, did really bad work, didn't finish, had to get another contractor in, come redo everything. And then, when you redo it, it's not like quite as good as it should be.
Yeah.
And then put the house on the market finally. House didn't sell because it just still had like some weird things and some quality stuff that wasn't the greatest. Pulled it off the market, put like another 35 grand into it and just like, fixing the drywall issues, fixing the trim issues, fixing like little stuff that kind of turned people away. Then finally sold it like right away after that.
You just did that right from the first time.
Exactly, right? So we ended up spending like 270 grand on the renovation.
Oh my gosh.
when it
How big was this house?
It was like 3,000 square feet.
Holy cow.
But we spent 270 grand on the renovation when it really could have been like 180,
So how much was this house? That's a huge renovation.
So yeah, it was way bigger of a project than I should have taken on as like my third deal.
Yeah.
Right. It was a 3.3, about 3,000 square feet, huge pool, like a 12
What'd you pay for it?
Paid, what did I pay for it? 430. Paid 430 for it. And had it under contract originally at 450. We got a 20K reduction. I was like, oh yeah, we just made 20 grand.
We're gonna kill it.
Yeah. Ended up selling, we thought like ARV was going to be like, 8, which ended up being like just under 8, which that was fine. But it also took just over a year to do. So, that was a lot of interest that we had to pay. And, we just went so over budget and we had to come out of pocket, like cash, to do that. Cause our hard money lender, obviously they only had like, 150 budget that they were going to give us. So we just basically were just pouring money into it every month. But at the end of, like you said, we got money back.
Yeah.
So, it ended up being all right. It sucked. It wasn't fun at all. It hurt the P&L at the end of the year, but, it is what it is. I don't regret it because I learned so much of like, hey, make sure you have the right people, make sure you're checking up on them, make sure the quality is good. That's a big one like that I learned on that house. You can't just like, in a hot market, you can like throw out whatever and it kind of sells. But like this, like now you have to have a really good product to sell.
Right.
Like you can't have drywall issues. You can't have like trim being weird. It has to be really good quality.
Yeah. Yeah. In hot markets, it's funny. I was talking about this with somebody else, but like from 2020, 22, you could literally do everything wrong and make money. It's like, don't even fix anything up. I remember we'd be getting like 20 offers on a property.
Right.
And we're like, yeah, you're buying it as is. We ain't fixing nothing. There's no appraisal contingency. And you better write in how much you're willing to pay above appraisal. Like,
right. Yeah.
All these crazy things. And it's like, I wish back to those times.
I remember like the second house was like, we listed it higher than we anticipated. Got like 16 offers and sold it, well over asking price to like a really good buyer, closed in 3 weeks. I was like, oh man, this is great.
Flipping's easy.
Yeah, this is so easy. And like, it wasn't even like that great of quality either. Like, there were drywall issues, like the cabinets were a little weird, but like so many people wanted it. Whereas then, as the market slowed a little bit and that really expensive house, when we went to list it, that wasn't going to fly,
Yeah.
And that was the feedback we got because we got a ton of showings. That wasn't the issue, but just the quality wasn't good.
Yeah.
So now that's like a huge priority.
So what have been some big issues as you've grown? Because that was your third house.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you survived it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And thankfully, it wasn't the only one I was doing because that would have been devastating. Right.
Yeah.
I would have, probably lost it. Right. Otherwise, it was like, we had other stuff going on, so it was fine.
Actually, let me add to this before you tell me your next one. But this is also what I've told a lot of real estate investors because I've seen a lot go through massive losses, and I've been transparent about mine, and we've had lots of students have to go through losses, just with the market going south and whatever. And I've told them, and I'll tell this to anybody listening, if you currently have a debt, you're underwater on a property, or you owe someone some money, or something's not going well, there is only one way out of the situation. You have to make more money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, this isn't the, save your way out of debt plan. Okay, we're entrepreneurs. We can make money.
Absolutely.
We can make money at will if we just choose to actually innovate and try new things and put ourselves out there. And so, if you're already like, down 50K on a deal, Like, that doesn't mean you retreat and do nothing and hide, and like, that means you better take an even bigger risk.
Right.
You're already like toast.
Like, we're in this, man.
Yeah.
Like,
So we better go really all in to try and, make some money and figure this out.
yeah, exactly. One of the other thing is too, is like, we were learning how to do it. Right. But then it's like, dude, we're into this. We have the people, we have the money, we have the resources. Let's just like get ourselves out of this hole, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Rather than going out trying to start a new business and, then not knowing how to do it, having to learn, maybe losing money at that, you know, it's like, we're already doing this, just double down on it.
Yeah.
We know why this deal went bad. It's not like, it was our fault. It's not like,
we
it's something
learned.
we didn't know.
We're not going to do that again.
Yeah.
So what else has been a big lesson?
I kind of go back to just like, people, right? Like, good people will make you so much money. Bad people cost you so much, just like, having non-performers or having, thankfully I haven't had an issue too bad where people are like bad for culture. Like, everyone's been pretty good. At least in the, short time that I've had a decent sized team. But people that are just not performing, that sucks. Like, it costs you so much money, on a monthly basis, so like, we said project manager's going over timeline by 2-3 months, that hurts the P&L at the end of the project. That's another, $8,000 to $12,000 that we just lost that we really didn't have to. So I actually had a meeting with all my project managers a few months ago. And I was like, hey guys, like,
is it after this mastermind?
It was a little before that. I had a different one after the last mastermind. But I was like, hey guys, like, our average renovation time is like 80 days. I was like, that is way too long. Like, we used to flip houses in like 30, 35, right? I was like, I know we are doing some bigger renovations now, but like, we need to have our average reno time of 45 days. Like, that's good. Like, so then next house, my best guy, he did a 2,600 square foot house in 29 days. Yeah. Full reno. I was like, dude, that's how it's supposed to be done every single time. And we ended up making way more money, and we sold it right away. We were thinking to, hold it 6 months. We held it 2. And so we made an extra,
4 months of interest.
Yeah, we made an extra 20 grand on it.
Yeah.
Because it was done so fast. I was like, guys, this is huge. Like, we need to double down on this.
Why do you think they weren't able to do it before?
I think it was a lot of my fault for not pushing them, and not like, giving them the tips and stuff. Cause like, when I was doing it, like, the second house ever, full reno, maybe like 1,500 square feet. It wasn't a huge house, but we did it in 3 weeks, 21 days, kitchen, bathroom, floors, roof, paint, like everything. Right. It wasn't just a cosmetic reno. Because I would, I'd have materials for the job. I'd have the contractors scheduled in advance. I would schedule them before we closed. And I was like, hey guys, like, do all these things and the renovation times will be much faster. Like, if you're working on inside, you're working on the kitchen, you can also do bathrooms at the same time.
Right.
You don't need to wait for that. If you're working inside, you can have the pool, you can have the tree trimming done, you can have the roof done. Like, it doesn't have to wait, Yeah. So I gave them all that. And then, they just kind of took those tips and, it has helped.
Yeah.
So.
What I've seen is like, and this just goes back to people believing what's possible and holding higher standards. So it's like, people just, they lower to their standards. They don't ever like raise to what's possible. So you have to set what standards are for the minimum of what you want to do. And, it's like, guys, a good rule of thumb I always used is like, and I know people can do it faster, but I was just like, hey, on just like normal renovations, like $1 per or a day per $1,000. It's like, guys, if it's a $30,000 job, I want this done in 30 days.
Okay. Yeah.
$60,000 job. I mean, I know it's going to take more, 60 days.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people, if you don't watch them and everything else, then it starts becoming that $30,000 job takes 2 months.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's what bit me. Like, I wasn't on top of it how it should have been.
Yeah.
And I go look, I'm like, dude.
By the way, it's happened to us hundreds of deals later.
Yeah.
And, project managers will, give every reason in the book. Hey, it's hard
blame
to
it
find
on the
good work.
subcontractor.
Yeah,
or whatever.
it's hard to find work. They're out of stock. There's, all these different things. And it's like, I get that, but this is still the standard.
Yeah. Well, and you got to figure out the solution. You can't just like throw your hands up and be like, oh, well.
Well, that goes back to pivoting.
Right.
Hey, the old way of how we've always done it. Yeah, but it doesn't work anymore.
Right.
And so that comes back to us as the business owner to help them problem solve, because it's like, okay, so the materials, can we switch a different material? Like, we don't have to keep using, the same LVT that we've always used. Okay, like, who's the guy that's holding this up? The electrician? Well, let's go find 3 more.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing is like, guys, just like think about it, right? Like, come on, you can do that. Like, that's not above your, ability here. Like that's a simple thing that you can do, right? You just gotta do it, and not just throw your hands up and be like, yeah, well, I guess we'll just wait.
We'll just wait for it to get in stock. We'll wait, but that's what people do.
Yeah, that's one thing too. Like, I stress very little. I don't know about you, but like maybe because I'm young and I don't know what bad stuff can happen, but I don't stress very often. And people ask me why. I was like, well, I think you can focus on the solution to the problem rather than the problem itself, right?
Right.
So like, perfect example, what we were just talking about, something's out of stock. I was like, oh man, it's out of stock. It's going to be late, whatever. It's going to throw off my project. Well, okay, hey, instead of thinking like that, let me go think of how to find a new product, right? Like that's easy. That's a super easy example. But for other things too, financial wise, whatever,
Yeah. Well, that's even back to like the whole thing with cash flow 2.0. It's like we were seeing our returns going down and down and down. And it's just like, well, this is just the market. This is just the way the leads are. This is like, it's rising everywhere. We can't, they got other offers. They're coming in over us. And, the person overbidding us there's no way they're making money. And I'm sitting there hearing all the excuses and I'm just like, okay. So give me the list of all the things you're seeing. I was like, okay. So what if we switch marketing? Okay. So what if we don't go on in-person appointments? Okay. What if and then, it's painful.
Right.
It's painful to switch, and it cost us a lot of money to like figure it out and revamp and everything else. But now it's like everybody's on there. Everyone's like, dude, this is way easier. This is great. And I'm like,
a little bit of growing pains, but now you're good. Now you're set. Yeah.
And then, for all the students, it's like they didn't have to do it. Now they're just like, they hop into it. Like,
well, that's the point of the mentor, right?
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about earlier. It's like, hey, that's how you can, really expedite your growth.
Yeah.
Is by letting someone else figure it out and just emulating them.
Yeah. So, yeah, be a problem solver. Don't be hey, this is just how it is. There's nothing I can do about it. That's the wrong. I don't think I've ever had that attitude.
No, you can't. I don't think any really highly successful people do, right?
Yeah.
I think that's like, you have to be a problem solver. You're going to run into problems every single day.
Yeah. So how is it managing a team being so young? Because I assume everyone's probably older than you and been in the game a long time. So like, how is it from a standpoint of like establishing respect, especially early on? Yeah.
Well, I never had a huge issue with it. Funny enough, like I was 18 when I started, right? Well, number one, I wouldn't really tell people that.
Yeah, you look like you could be older. You got a beard and all that. Yeah.
I grew that beard out because I heard you talking about it.
Oh, you used the minoxidil?
I do use the minoxidil and biotin.
Dude, were you a baby face before?
I was big time. And I had like longer hair too, like, it was like down to here. And then, cut it up little,
Oh, bro. Yeah. So that alone was worth your mentorship. Being able to grow a beard, dude.
Yeah. No, it was great. Because like otherwise I just had like a little, like peach fuzz here. Yeah. But no, that's funny. But back to the question is like, I had, people that I would deal with and I just really wouldn't mention my age. If they asked, I would tell them, right?
Yeah.
But I think the first real interactions that I've had, were like with contractors, right? So the contractors would be like, oh, well, you're signing my checks. They're going through.
I don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, you're giving people thousands of dollars. They'll probably respect you, for the most part. It's also, how you hold yourself too. But, with like employees and everything like that, it really hasn't been an issue. I think a lot of it is like, okay, hey, it's proven, right? Like I've done it for a little bit now.
Yeah, now you have track record. I don't think it's a problem at all now.
Yeah, and then also like I'm treating everyone with respect, and
you're super professional, very like just you hold yourself way beyond your years.
Yeah, exactly. So like, and all my friends, even in school, they were all at least 2 years older than me. Like I only had a couple friends that were like in my grade. So I think that kind of contributed to part of it, right?
Yeah.
Like even like playing sports, like I was in high school, like I was on varsity.
Yeah.
Then my junior year, I was captain. Most of the time captains are senior year.
Yeah.
So, that's just kind of always how I've been,
How do you think sports helped?
Sports is awesome. Well, number one, it teaches you how to work as a team, right? It teaches you, depending on your personality type, how to be a leader. That helped me a lot. I had a coach, honestly, if he listens to this, he wasn't the best soccer coach, but I still think of things he says today. Right. Like my high school soccer coach, like,
yeah,
he really instilled in my mind, like positive reinforcement. Cause like I was on the field, like I was, goalie in soccer. Right.
Oh, okay.
So like I was, I could see the whole field. So I was, like saying, hey, drop back. Hey, he's making a run, whatever. Right. And then someone would make a mistake. I'm like, oh dude, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you thinking? Like you let him by, like that was stupid. They scored a goal because of you.
It's not my fault.
Right.
I gave up this goal.
Yeah. So he was like, man, like, use more positive reinforcement, man. Like, don't be so negative all the time. Now, there is a place to be negative, right? If someone's like just being stupid, right? But be like, hey, man, that was good, but you missed this. Like, try to do that instead. If you do, you'll be good, right? So, like, that's just stuck with me, right? And then, also learning, that was a big one in, like, learning how to treat people, right? So, like, if you treat people the right way and you treat them with respect, most of the time they're going to respect you back.
Yeah.
And that's like on the wall in my office. That's like one of the core values is like positivity and treat people with respect, work well with others. So
yeah, super team environment.
Yeah, 100%.
What did you not want to go to college for sports? Cause you just like, yeah, I'm just going straight into the flip game.
What happened actually, I got in a really bad jet ski accident. My senior year, there was like another jet ski. He was like doing donuts, lost control. It came and hit me. I shattered my face.
Dang.
I shattered my face, broke my nose, pushed my eye back into my head.
No way.
Yeah, it wasn't like crazy back into my head, but yeah, it was bad. And so like after that,
lucky to be alive.
Yeah. I mean, I stayed conscious the whole time, which is crazy. But I was like throwing up blood. It was bad. They like pulled me out of the water, and like put me on like a police boat, ended up in the hospital. Had to get major reconstructive surgery. Anyway, I stopped playing sports after that. Just because, yeah. And even like I had broken my nose in soccer before I got kicked in the face. Being a goalie, I was on the ground and, they kicked me in the face. I was like, I really don't want to get kicked in the face anymore, get balls to the face, whatever. So I stopped playing sports after that. But I did go to college for a year. And then it was like my first week in college. I was like sitting there waiting for the cafeteria to open. And my agent calls me. He's like, dude, you got the deal. They accepted your offer. I was like, oh, that's awesome. I was like jumping. Like I was so excited. And then like after college, I just, I was in college. I was like, kind of working on that. Like on the weekends, I'd go home, whatever. It was like an hour and a half away. So it was like close enough to where I could drive. And then like the second semester, I had, 2 other projects at that point. And it just, I was up back home flipping, more than I was focusing on college. So, my second year I went for like a week. I was like, man, screw this. Like, and I just went all in on,
you just bounced.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you talk to anyone or you just were sitting there and you're like, this doesn't make sense?
Well, I was sitting there, and I was like, man, like, I'm getting asked to go see a property tomorrow. And like, I can't make it. And then I have like, I got to check on this rehab. I'm like, dude, what am I doing, man? And then, so once I like focused all my energy on that, like that also really started to, improve the business, right? And I think that that's a big thing too, because, people try to do everything like, we've been talking about. They try to do this, they try to do that, and then they don't really stick to it. They try to start 3 different businesses because they see, an average millionaire has 7 streams of income. That means I need to have 7 streams of income. Instead of just focusing on one, right? It's like that Brandon Turner analogy. I love it. I say it all the time. It's like, hey, instead of building a bridge to the island, don't build like 10 different bridges. Build one bridge and then just add lanes to that bridge after you've already made it to the island. That's one that has like stuck with me, forever.
I've never heard him say that.
No?
I'm with him all the time.
Really? Yeah. He said that when I was like big into Bigger Pockets, like at the beginning, because I was like, the podcast. That one really stuck with me.
Yeah. I'll have to ask him about that. I'll be like,
Yeah.
Brandon, so I'm thinking about getting to this island. How do you think I should do it? They're like, well, Ryan, let me tell you.
Yeah.
You should build one bridge.
Yeah. Build one bridge. And then, because if you build like 10 different bridges, you're probably never going to get to the island. Or
No,
if you do, it's
you'll
gonna-
have 10 piers.
Exactly. Right. So he said, hey, build one bridge, then you can add lanes to that bridge. And, like, for example, in real estate, like you built your bridge in real estate and then you added the education, you added, other things onto it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
am I wrong in saying that?
No, exactly. I literally only flipped houses for 5 years.
Right.
Like nothing else. And I did hundreds of deals before I got on social media and did anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was my mindset with it. So
Yeah. No, that's smart. It's funny. I had a similar epiphany, but in regards to flipping couches.
Okay.
So this is actually when I was your age. I was 22 and I was substitute teaching.
Okay.
So this is what I did in the off season when I was playing baseball. And I was like, well, I substitute teach. I can make $100 a day doing that. Like that'll hold me over. So literally I would go sit at the desk for 6 hours a day and do nothing. And just like the class would watch a movie or something.
You were the cool substitute teacher,
Oh,
huh?
dude, I was and I didn't have minoxidil yet, so I still looked super young, and so it was just a disaster, dude. Like I'd walk in the thing, and just these stupid high school girls would be going crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh!
Did you
dude.
ever like walk in the hallway and like some administrator was like, "Hey, you gotta go
Yeah,
to class"?
for
You're like,
sure.
Dude, I
and
work
I'm like,
here.
no, I'm here to like substitute. So, yeah, that was an interesting period because I looked super young still. And anyways, I'm sitting there, and at some point, I probably had substituted for at least a year. So at some point, I started flipping couches, and yeah, maybe I was 23 when I started subbing. That sounds about right. So I think I was 23, did it till I was like 24, and then I start flipping couches, and I'm like, dude, I just made $200 flipping a couch. That was easy. And then I'm doing this, and then like while I'm subbing, I'm just looking for my next couch. So I'm like, oh, dude, that's a sick couch. And I was like, that's for sure $200. So I make the offer, and the guy's like, yeah, dude, come pick it up right now.
Nice.
And I'm like, crap, I can't pick it up. And then I lost the deal. And then it, like, the first time ever, I understood opportunity cost while I was subbing for some kids. I'm like, I literally just lost $200 because I couldn't go get the deal because I'm sitting here to make $100.
Right.
This doesn't make sense.
Right.
And I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I quit.
Yeah, that's great. One thing too that it happened to me, I think a little bit later on, where I was like flipping, and we had this issue every single time with like the first few houses we did, where the contractors couldn't just like finish a job the way we wanted, right? Like it just wasn't, the quality wasn't there. And then it, like stuff wasn't in their bid, and we didn't want to go over budget, so we like go and like finish it ourselves, like little stuff, like little like caulking, doorknobs, whatever it was, like little easy stuff. We're sitting in a house one night. We're there to like 2 a.m. trying to finish it. I was supposed to go see a house the next day, and we were gonna offer like, it was a higher end house at this point, but $900,000 on this house. I overslept, didn't go see it. That house goes under contract. I watch it like a month later, sold for $855. I just lost that. That was gonna make probably $150,000 because I was there not wanting to go $1,000, $2,000 over budget on a flip because I was doing stuff myself. I was like, after that, I was like, dude, I'm never doing this again. I was like so upset.
Yeah, that was like, and that's why I think the first thing you hired was a project manager, because I was probably telling the story about me, and I'm just like, dude, I'm over here just running around projects, just paying people every freaking day, and
Takes a lot of your time.
it takes tons of time.
It doesn't really make you any money.
It doesn't make any money. You can hire anyone to do it. And I'm like, if I could just not do this, I could find way more deals. Sure enough, that's what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the same thing. Is like, hey, I'm not project managing anymore. Now I can focus on acquisition.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
And by the way, let me say this for everyone listening. The key here is not that it's project management or that it's flipping couches or that it's flipping houses. That's the thing. The key here is at whatever stage you're currently at, doesn't matter. The key is figuring out what is the best use of your time. And that's something I stress. I'm going to talk about it tomorrow here in the mastermind, is every quarter I always evaluate what's the best use of my time, because it always changes.
Right.
Every 90 days, the best use of my time is changing. And if I'm not optimizing my time, then I'm leaving money on the table. I'm not reaching my full potential, like all of that. And so like if I was to look back at those different stories I said, essentially what was happening was at first I started subbing and I loved it because I was like, bro, making $100 a day doing nothing.
Easy.
This is great use of my time. My time was not worth anything. But then I was able to start flipping couches, and all of a sudden that became not a good use of time. I'm like, dude, I'm losing money sitting here at this desk. I should be flipping couches. And then sure enough, I start flipping couches and I'm doing well. And then I start flipping houses. And I'm like, dude, this couch flipping thing is not a good use of my time. Like there's way bigger opportunity right here. I'm already having success. So I start flipping houses. That leads to new things. I'm project managing. I'm managing the deals. And then I start to realize I'm like, project management's not a good use of my time. I could get more deals and make more money. So then, you know, I make that shift. And then, you know, later on down the road, I literally kind of just like build out this thing and I'm doing all these deals. And then I realize I'm like, you know, I don't think it's a good use of my time to be, you know, negotiating deals and kind of running this company. Granted, we're a multi-million-dollar company, but I'm like, I think I could really hire somebody else to do this for
Absolutely.
6 figures.
Yeah, easy.
And so, you know, I end up making that shift and I say, I think the best use of my time is making content. So I start making content and it doesn't pay right away, but in time it became the best use of my time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably how everyone in that room is here.
That's how everyone's here.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm always reevaluating it. And even at this stage in my life, I'm like, okay, you know, content's been a great thing for me, you know, leading people and education, they've all been great things, but what's the best use right now, this very moment? And I mean, I can tell you for the first 6 months of the year, it was in the marketing department. All I did was put my head down in the marketing department and started to just understand and look at numbers every single day. Lead cost, funnels, landing pages, copywriting, ads, hooks, like, dude, crazy amounts of stuff I've just been studying for 6 months that nobody would even have a clue. And then this last quarter in Q3, I said, I'm solely focused on the sales process now.
Now that you got the marketing.
Yep. Now that marketing's good, let's figure out sales. And then sure enough, we figure out this novation pitch, which you guys got to hear about for like how in depth it is. The only way it could become that in depth is studying it.
Right.
And really just going all in at doing that. But now that that's in, I don't know what the answer is right now. Like, we're going to go do these exercises. I'm going to do them myself. And I'm going to be like, all right, as we go into Q4, what is the actual best use? Because this is now dialed in. It took me 9 months to do, but it's good.
Yeah.
So now what?
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of where I'm at now. It's like, okay, I think I got the marketing. Like, I think the marketing's okay now. Now it's like, okay, just training the sales guys, right? And just getting them to
so
convert
this quarter,
our leads.
Your best use of your time is being a sales trainer. And a lot of people will be like, being a sales trainer, that's a lot. But it's like, right now, it's the best use. And then at some point, you'll be able to delegate it off to an actual sales manager or whatever.
Right.
Because it's no longer the best use because you have a process.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, once we get those leads, you know, to convert how they should, then we can turn up the marketing.
Yep.
And then we're good. Because like, I don't want to turn up the marketing.
Yeah, when it's all still learning and new.
Yeah, exactly. Then we're just wasting money and we're not converting, you know, like we should.
So that's kind of like what it just always is in business. And I think like even for me, one thing you also want to set is like, hey, at the end of the day, like I'm very flexible with where I want to take my life. Like wherever God wants me to go, I'm willing to go.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm also like trying to think, okay, what is he showing me and where, you know, he thinks and where I think things could go in the next few years. Like I like to think big picture too and say, all right, you know, if this is a goal of lead kitchen or wealthy investor or home run offer, like what do those possibilities look like? Where could we be in 3 years? And you start to think and you're like, well, in 3 years, there's no reason we couldn't have all of them be 8-figure plus companies. And, you know, what would need to happen for that to be so?
3 years is a long time too.
It's a long time.
Yeah. There's a lot that can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I've looked back and like, you know.
You weren't even flipping yet.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, you know, what I was doing 3 years ago, I was like, wow, you know, like we can actually do a lot. And, you know, one of the big ones was like from last year, we did like 22 deals to now when we're doing almost 100.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like I would never have thought it was going to be that fast.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas like my first year, I was like, oh, dude, I want to do like 15 my first year. And then I fell short. I was like 9. I was like, that sucks. And then, you know, second year fell short. And third year, now I'm doing way more than I even thought. It's just kind of like that hockey stick
Yeah,
growth.
you're hockey sticking right now.
Yeah.
And you're not even doing really like the direct to seller stuff or anything at like a level you could do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So there's still a lot more hockey stick to grow.
A lot more hockey sticking.
Well, but then what will happen is you'll catch your hockey stick and then you'll plateau.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to decide whether or not the plateau is good enough or whether you want to like figure out the next hockey stick.
Right.
Because like even for me, like, yeah, I had a hockey stick similar my first, like my third, fourth year. I went from 5, 20, 50, 150, and then we plateaued for like 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't because I couldn't figure, I just was like, it's good. Like, I'm going to go focus on social media now. I'm good with the business being at this level. I don't need it to do 500 deals. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'll go fry bigger fish that I think are better opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like I was saying out there, like now I've come back full circle and I said, okay, now with all my new skills and talents and knowledge and relationships, how would I do this business today if I was starting over now? And like if I fully gave it my all. So like it's kind of like I'm back in it for the first time in 5 years.
When it's good. I mean, you're looking at it maybe from a little bit different perspective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's good to do that every once in a while.
Yeah.
Because you don't know maybe what you're missing. Like
I'm missing a lot.
Yeah.
I'm missing a lot. And the world changes.
Sure. Absolutely.
So there's new things available that people just don't do yet. And it's like, we'll do that.
Yeah.
I learned that over here. We'll do it over here now. And we'll just kind of let everyone else still just keep doing whatever they did. And it's all good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that goes back to the whole thing of just like pivoting and adapting, right? I mean, because if you're not growing, you're probably going to go out of business.
For sure.
You
have to.
Yeah.
And
even like big companies are growing, right? Like,
Yeah.
Google is still growing.
They're still growing.
Apple's,
dude, I think, what did they become like the first multi-trillion-dollar company? I can't even remember.
Yeah, it's crazy. Elon Musk, like all his companies are still growing.
Yeah,
so.
he'll be like a trillionaire in a decade or something.
Isn't that crazy?
Trillionaire.
Yeah. Like countries don't even have $1 trillion.
And Elon Musk does.
Yeah.
And he has influence and
huge influence.
All those things. It's not just money. He has his own social media platform. You like look at what he's doing. And it's like, holy crap. Like it's actually starting to come together. This guy could like own the world.
Right.
Like
the amount of power.
Yeah. It's like, bro,
has.
he just changed the whole car industry. So, I mean, he could have one of those iRobot scenes where he just takes control of everyone's cars and just like whatever. This dude has the rockets to get to space, and he's gonna go build the colonies on Mars and own Mars.
Yeah.
He has all the energy. He has the social media platform to put whatever agenda he wants to put out there.
Yeah. He owns where people communicate.
Yeah.
That's huge, isn't it?
You're just like, holy crap, this guy's literally like, he's more powerful than like, he could be more powerful than all the countries. Like that's not crazy to think.
Yeah.
With the amount of resources he has.
Yeah, resources, influence. I mean, it's just like from all different aspects too. Like people's cars, people's energy, people's communication. I mean, those are like three huge
planet,
things. The planet,
the solar, the sun.
Yeah,
solar.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's like, oh man,
the next place we're gonna inhabit.
Yeah, he's like already thinking about all of it. And then the Neuralink thing. Soon he's gonna own your brain.
Yeah, right. How do you feel about that?
Dude, as much as I say I like wouldn't do it, but I probably would.
I know. Well, that's the thing is like, I don't really want something in my head like that. But on the flip side, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, on the flip side, it's going to be like, you're either going to have it or you're not.
Yeah.
And the people who have it are going to have a severe advantage.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you going to do? It's like not having a cell phone today.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I was just going to say. Like Apple said a few years ago, they're like, we are going to make features on the iPhone that you cannot live without.
Yeah.
And now it's like, who's going to live without their phone, right? I know I'm not.
Yeah.
You're probably not.
No. If you don't have a phone, like, I don't know.
What are you doing?
How you would function.
Yeah.
At least with the rest of society.
Right.
So yeah, I think like, and however long it'll gain trust, adoption, everyone else, and then everyone will have it. It's just like, oh, bro, you don't have freaking the Neuralink in your brain.
Yeah.
It's like, you're a loser. And it's like these guys, they can just think anything and it's there. Amazon will deliver it in 2 minutes by then.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, yeah, I think we need eggs. There's eggs.
Yeah. And now what does that do to people that are just, storefronts, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, that's already like e-commerce has taken over so much stuff, and because those stores didn't pivot, right? Yeah. It just kind of goes all the way back to that.
Yeah, it's just all part of, but at the end of the day, right? Society is technically better off for all of these innovations, right? But it also just creates this widened wealth gap of like those companies that do it, they control everything, and then there's everyone else. But we all still get to benefit from all those companies' innovations.
Well, I think that's, one thing about, the United States that like, I'm in South Florida, right? So I see so many people that just come to this country from, South America, anywhere in the Caribbean. And they're like, dude, there's so much opportunity here. And that's like one great thing about like capitalism, right? Because you have, competition, and competition is always going to bring the best out of people.
Yeah.
And, people that are just not innovating and not doing their best, someone's going to come in and take over.
Well, what's cool too is like I've done a lot of webinars and stuff. And so we'll occasionally get people who are in Canada or in a whole nother country. And they're like, can I do this from Canada, from Mexico? And I'm like, absolutely. Like, our softwares and stuff aren't going to work for Mexico.
Right.
Like they're only for the US, but you could do deals in the US from anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
You could wholesale from Canada in the US.
In the US.
From Mexico in the US. Like nothing's stopping you from that.
Yeah. I know one of my guys that I know, he lives in Italy. He just moved to Italy, Sicily specifically. And he's doing deals here. He's lending money on a lot of my deals. I mean, he's living on an island in Sicily.
Yeah. I met two guys, they're really big flippers. They live in Israel.
Yeah.
And they do it here.
That's awesome.
They got a couple of markets here and they're like big.
Yeah, really.
And it's like they just run their team. Their whole team is in Israel too.
Really?
Yeah, like
interesting.
Their salespeople, everybody's in Israel, and then like they do flips and stuff. So their construction and project managers are where they're at.
Sure. I guess you just got to work on like a different time zone then.
Yeah,
that's like the only thing.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the only problem. But it's like that. It truly America is like a place where, dude, no one has an excuse.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like, again, South Florida, right? I see all the immigrants, and a lot of my friends, like their parents were immigrants. My dad was an immigrant from Cuba.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of times, people that are born here are, they're used to it, and they might be like lazier. Not everyone, right? I mean, I think obviously we're decent examples of that, but like, I had some friends in high school that like just don't realize the opportunity that's here. Whereas like, one of my really good friends, his parents were immigrants, he's first generation. They see so much opportunity here, and they become so much more successful than some people that were born here, because the people that were born here, it's normal to them. They don't see that opportunity.
Yeah.
Whereas people that, they come here, they come here for opportunity and they capitalize on it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, bro, I mean, I could chat all day. I know we got to get back to the event, but I'm just impressed so much with what you're doing, how quickly it's happening. And, I know that it's just the beginning of all these great things. And so I'm just excited to, play a small part and just watch you do it, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. And, I do owe a lot of it to you and this organization too, and how much it's helped me, just progress.
Yeah, no, it means a lot. So where can people find you?
I'm pretty active, Instagram and Facebook. It's just Camarotti Homes, my last name, Camarotti. I usually post, people want to, send me DMs. I usually try to answer most all of them. So
yeah, send them Florida deals.
Yeah, Florida deals.
Whatever else. Cool.
Yeah, man.
All right, guys, so go check him out. Go follow him, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.